Hello, everyone. I am Ryan Bowling. Thank you all for joining me once again. It never ceases to amaze me just how crazy these progressive Democrats actually are. And it never ceases to amaze me how blind African Americans in this country are to the ways of these progressive Democrats because we keep voting for these people. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'm talking about here is a councilman from Washington, D.C. in Ward 9 who basically is having a hissy fit because of high crime in the nation's capital, and now he's calling for the National Guard to come up and save the day. Now, wait till I read you the stats in this article. Wait till I read you the stats in this article, and you're going to see for yourself, you're going to hear for yourself, rather, just how insane these progressive Democrats are. You know, you can't help but wonder, are these people even thinking about what they're saying? I mean, what is it? What is it? So let's get right into this article. Let's get right into it, man. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I believe I know what part of the reasonings are, but at the same time, I think that some of these Democrats may be sincere, but yet at the same time, I don't know. It's weird. But it says Trayon White Sr., a Democratic Washington, D.C. city councilman representing Ward 9 in the nation's capital, is calling for the National Guard's intervention in the city's crime crisis. Now, here's his words. The crime is out of control and getting worse by the day. You don't say. We must declare an emergency regarding the crime and violence in our neighborhoods and act urgently. It may be time to call on the National Guard to protect the children and innocent people that are losing their lives to this senselessness, declared White. Yeah, sir, I agree with you there. I am tired of burying our children, he continued. We are too comfortable with the state of our city. We must take action to gain control and protect our residents. Lord, have mercy, Jesus. Law enforcement is only one part of how we combat public safety issues. It would take all of us to heal our community. Man, come on. Oh my God, these people disgust me. Now, here's the stats. Skyrocketing crime rates in DC have been rising by particular violence. Started out by a particular violent start in August. In the first 5 days of the month, the city recorded 13 homicides. 13 homicides, first 5 days. First 5 days, 13 homicides. On the year, homicides are up 28%, robbery is up 60%, violent crime more generally is up 37%, and all crime is up 30% over 2022. Wow. The city has also already recorded 596 carjacking cases, 77% of which involve firearms. Get that. 596 carjacking cases, and 77% of those were involving firearms. So if the person had resisted, they could have got shot. But here's the killing part. Here's the kicker. You ready? Only 78 arrests have been made in those cases. 78 arrests have been made in the cases of 596 carjacking cases. Now, you could argue, the person that got carjacked didn't say anything, probably didn't identify. You can argue that. But I think the problem is just these policies. But let's go on. Last year, the city council voted to lower the criminal penalties for a number of crimes. The city council, just like the city of Cleveland. Oh, my God. They decided to lower the criminal penalties for a number of crimes, including carjacking and armed carjacking. But it was withdrawn after Congress rejected the changes. I wonder if it really was. Last month, the city council approved emergency crime bills meant to address the deteriorating situation in the city, including by making it easier to detain those accused of violent crimes under their trial. White's call for the use of the National Guard comes 3 years after progressives across the country insisted that Senator Tom Cotton's call for its intervention during the wave of violent riots across the country during the summer of 2020 threatened African-American lives. Yes, it did, because during those waves and those violent, those riots, a significant number of the people that were hurt and murdered and killed were black too. National Guard troops did show up in D.C. at the time, prompting Mayor Murrell Bowser to call for their removal. End of article. I mean, what more needs to be said about the policy of these progressive Democrats? These progressive Democrats are the destruction of our cities all over this country. And it is up to the American citizens, both black and white, Hispanic, Asian, and all the rest, to get them to HELL out of office. These people are destroying our countries. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't any Republicans that do wrong. I'm not saying that. Some people may call me biased on this, but man, come on. I mean, come on. Okay. Whether I'm biased or not, let's just look at this situation here. Assuming that I am biased, that I tend to take one side, okay. I'm only taking this side because this side on the right at this point in time right now seems to make more sense for our country than the left. Now, if a person is okay with violent crime in their cities and they cool and they're okay with that, they're just going to protect themselves and they're a hustler, then that's fine. Most Americans, I don't think like that. Okay, most Americans are like, no, I'm not fine with high crime. I want a politician, whether it's someone on the city council or whether it's the mayor or whether it's a police chief or whatever. I want or the district attorney or the judges. I want someone who is going to freaking penalize these criminals for what they do. Part of the reason, if not the only reason why there's high crime in all of these Democrat-led cities all over the country is because of these politicians going soft on crime. Criminals are encouraged to continue to do what they do because they know there aren't any penalties. I hear this all the time from these knuckleheads that I have to work around at my job. Okay, they're going to continue to do it. If there's no consequences, why stop? And the time that they do go, hey, they can get them a free bed, some free food, and they cool. Free bed, free food at taxpayer expense, they cool. They cool. And see, here's the thing. This is one of the things that ticks me off about a lot of African Americans, black Americans. At one point, I said I wasn't going to use the term African Americans on here. So I may vacillate between the two. I may say black Americans, African Americans, the black people, either way it go. Okay. The crazy thing about these progressive Democrats, as I said earlier, is that a significant number of blacks vote for these people automatically. They see the crime rising in our cities all over. They see the crime rising, and yet when it comes time to vote, they automatically vote Democrat. That has to stop because you're voting in office and you're voting in power the very politicians whose policies towards crime is going to destroy the cities. Next thing you know, it's going to be mayors all over and city councilmen all over the country calling for the National Guard to protect everything. You don't need the National Guard, to be quite frank with you. You don't need the National Guard. What you need is politicians who believe in punishing criminals for being a criminal. Well, that's what you need. You don't need the National Guard. You don't need the military. That's a bunch of nonsense. Get people in office who need to be in office who are going to punish these criminals. And I believe that it's up to us as black Americans, white Americans, Asians, Hispanics, and whoever else lives in this country to see the light, to open our eyes to the realities of what is going on around us and not just be blindsided by what the mainstream media is putting out. Because if you're just watching the mainstream media, they are not, for the most part, going to give you the entire story. You got to go outside that box that they've created for you. I don't know how many times I've been saying that, but people got to go outside that box that the mainstream media is creating for you. You're not going to get everything you need to know. You're not going to get all the right stats on both sides if you're just watching the mainstream media. It is lying to you. It's covering it up. That's mind control. Wake up, black people. Wake up. I'm coming to the black people even extra harder because 90% of us vote Democrat automatically. It's like it's entrenched in our subconscious. We just got to vote Democrat. Let me end the video on this. With all the craziness that's going on around me, when I see so many of these type of things going on, sometimes it gets a little frustrating and also sometimes discouraging. Because my thing is like, what's the point in telling people anything? They're not going to listen. They're going to vote Democrat. They're going to vote for the progressives. And they're going to vote because they want somebody that's black and young and vibrant in the office. They're not going to pay attention. I was like, man, what's the point? You know, what's the point? I do what I do. I give what I give and I move on. What's the point? You know, it's discouraging to talk to some people. But, you know, the other day, something happened that was really encouraging. I'm standing outside. I have my bike sitting to the side. I'm outside what is known as the front portico at Tower City. And I'm posted watching all this idiocy around me. And I look to my left and there's a older lady. She's probably had to be in her late 50s, early to mid 60s perhaps. And she was standing, I'd say at least 20 feet to my left. And she's just standing there, had on blue jeans. And she's standing there, had gray hair. And she's just standing there and she had a mask on her face. And she's just, you know, one of them masks or whatever. And, you know, one of the masks for the virus thing, you know. So she's just standing there and she's looking and I look over her. She looks over to me and I look back and I look back forward. And all of a sudden she walks towards me. And she begins to share with me on a site that she had discovered. I think it's called Axis or something like that. I should have really looked it up. I didn't. But she said that the mayor of our city, Mayor Bibbs, okay, of our city has made some kind of deal with some kind of organization or whatever that is going to allow immigrants to take over our city, basically. Our city is going to be flooded by immigrants, whether they're legally here or illegally. She didn't go into the details, but she said that this is going to happen here in the city of Cleveland. And when she told me that, let me go back. When she told me that, I said, no, that's just in New York. That's just in Chicago. She said, no, it's going to happen here. I said, where you find that at? She said, on this Axis, whatever, news source. It's a news. I said, what is that? I said, who is that? She said, it's a news source that shares information that the mainstream doesn't share. Sounds familiar, right? Sounds familiar. I said, wow. And I was infuriated. But she said, yes, it's going to happen here. She says, our mayor is a mess. And this woman is African-American. She's African-American. She says, our mayor is a mess. And I'm like, check. That was 2 checks. When she told me about that, was check. And then she said, our mayor is a mess. Check, because he's another progressive Democrat. Then she said, there's the part that got me. She said, we need Trump back. Check. And I was like, that's 3 checks from this African-American female. And I'm like, wow. I said, yeah, we do. And we began to talk. We talked about 2 or 3 minutes. She's like, we really need, our country is being destroyed. We better pay attention to what's going on. We need Trump back. And it was so encouraging to hear this lady out of nowhere, just standing there, walked up to me, initiated this conversation with me. That really encouraged me. It was almost as if God was saying, don't give up hope, son. There are some people out there that are African-American, Black American, whatever, Afro-American, whichever one you want to call it. So there are some people out there. I added that part in there. He didn't tell me that. But there are some people out there, okay, Black people out there that do believe that we need Trump back, that do believe that these progressive Democrats are the destructions of our city. They're the hellions that is causing the hell in our cities all over this country. There are people just like, and it was encouraging. So I wanted to end the video on that note, on an encouraging note. Everybody is not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Everybody is not insane in the brain. Okay, you know, there are some people out there that can still think for themselves. There are some people out there that have not been brainwashed by the mainstream media, giving them only one side and pushing propaganda. That's what that is. It's propaganda. It is what it is, man. Hopefully, God Almighty, the people will wake up and see the light, because these progressive Democrats are a bunch of nutbags and we need to get them out. And that's what I have to say about that. What do you guys think about this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. God bless you all and see you again.